But to start this episode, I think it would only be right that we, what's right in front of us. Well, what just happened? Well, that's the 2023 harvest. This vintage from this year. Um,
Yep.
Give us some thoughts. Give us what you saw, what you know. I know it was kind of a tough harvest, a tough season. So, kind of tell us what we can
Yeah.
expect as wine lovers. What's going to come from this year?
Well, there's not going to be a lot coming, to be honest. It depends where you are in general for some of it. But, the growing season started very poorly. Whenever there is a quick warm up, in early March, mid March, the vines start waking up, they start growing, they start budding, tender green leaves. Whenever that happens too early, it happened in 2017. There's always the danger of frost once the weather turns cold again, and that's exactly what happened this year. So that was, the end of March, early April. If you were hit by frost, you lost anywhere between 15 and 20% of your possible production right there, because once the vines are frosted, they're done for the season. They're not going to recover. So that was the first thing. Then the second thing was in Tuscany, at least, and a little bit into Barolo, into Piedmont, not quite as much. In May, we were just told everywhere we went, it literally rained every single day. I mean, for 30 some odd days in a row. So the biggest problem with that is mold, fungus, and mildew on the plants. And that just, kills everything. So by May, there's fruit growing.
Well, let me ask you.
And
I'm getting back
sure.
to bud break in March. You said in your report on your website that this is unusual to have that warmth come in and you get that bud break that early. But then you kind of said also in that same statement, but it seems to be becoming a trend since 2017. You've seen this happen more and more, and so
Yep.
what does that mean going forward? What are winemakers? Is there something they can do, or is this just what are they going to have to do to kind of deal with this?
Well, I mean, there's two things. Well, I guess three things. Number one, you can hope for a normal weather pattern. Some of the properties are just small, family, farms, family producers that don't have a lot of, disposable capital, let's say. So they're, subject to the whims of Mother Nature. The other two things that you can do is we've seen it a lot in France, not so much in Italy, but the couple of years when Champagne and Bordeaux had really bad frost, um, threats of frost, I guess, they have what they call pot fires or bucket fires. So it literally looks like a bunch of 5 gallon buckets. I mean, thousands of them that they put on the ground in between the vine rows, and they light a fire.
Heaters.
And it's
These are
just,
heaters.
no, it's like an open fire, not a heater. It's
Oh,
like a
really?
wood burning fire. Yeah, because that's the rub. People complain about the smoke pollution. But yeah, I mean, they literally light fires and to try to keep the vineyard warmer, to keep the frost away. Another thing they do is they have these big, um, it's really just a big fan on a metal pole. It kind of looks like a strange windmill of sorts, but that just blows air across the vineyard as well to try to keep the air circulating and keep it a little bit warmer. But you need the you need the electricity infrastructure for that. The fan the motors and the fans are expensive again, so it's difficult to deal with.
Well, and then in addition to that, say they get all those solutions in place, that deals with frost. But the other thing that seems to be hitting that region is the potential of hail.
Yeah, well, that's what I was getting at before. After they got through May, which um, the Italians have a word for it. It's called peronospora, and we were referring to it when we were over there in October as the P word, because every single producer we went to or talked to, you just bring that word up and they nod their head yes, peronospora. So it's like a downy mildew, and it just from too much water, because the plants could never dry off, basically. And it attacks the grapes and they just rot. And we talked to, I think one of your favorite producers in Brunello was Tenuta Fanti.
Yes.
So we were there, and I was talking to Elisa Fanti, and I said, "Did you have Peronospora?" And she just started nodding her head, and she's like, we would go out in the morning, we would spray copper sulfate. It's an organic compound, right? Copper is found in the soil. And what that does is it shields the vines. Basically, it's kind of like when you wax your car and then the water beads up. But she said, we would put it on in the morning, and by the afternoon, it would be just washed off before it would have any impact, and we'd have to go out and do it again. So that's how expensive a treatment can be for that. But beyond May into the summer, July and late June, July, August, there was several instances of hail. Now, hail is very, confined to a small area wherever you happen to have a thunderstorm. But this was coming up, once a week and in different places. And, Chiara Boschis in Piemonte, she sent me pictures of one of her vineyards. She said, this is a Dolcetto vineyard. She goes, people ask me all the time, why are wines so expensive? Well, I'm going to show you. She goes, she had a picture of hail in her hand. It was about the size of an egg of the ice or frost, whatever the correct word for it is. And she said, I worked 10 months, in this vineyard, making it perfect. And all that work was completely destroyed in 15 minutes.
Wow.
So no grapes from that vineyard that year. There was hail in San Gimignano. There was hail in Castellina. There was hail in parts of Montalcino, over Fonti, over Biondisanti, over Talenti, Colimitoni, right over the section of that hill, Poggio Antico. They all had hail, and this was on top of, the Peronospora damage, which could have been 30%. The frost damage, if you had it, 15 to 25%. And oh, by the way, the deer and the wild boar, which, always are munching, to the tune of maybe 5 or 10%. So there are a lot of small producers. I know Daniele Rosti from Campo Chiarenti.
Yep.
He had no harvest this year. Nothing.
Really?
Nothing.
Wow.
Nothing. He said he picked a small parcel of Vernaccia grapes that he thinks maybe they'll do something with. But I gathered the way he described it to me was it's not going to be good enough to be in the discipline of, Vernaccia San Gimignano. So I think what he's saying is, maybe I'll make some sort of, proprietary white, Reserva out of it. But he says it's small. It's only, a couple hundred liters.
Wow.
But no red grapes, nothing, and also no olives. That was another issue too. But the olives, the wet conditions, encouraged it's simply called the olive fly. So the olive fly literally drills and burrows into an olive and eats it from the inside out. So there's almost no olives. The olive crop was really bad this year as well. So what were they saying to me, the producers? They definitely realized that, a lot of times when you ask a producer, oh, is it a bad vintage? They're saying, oh, well, there's really no bad vintages. Some vintages we make less wine, but, there's always a little bit. This time they were just kind of, the look on their face, they were just kind of gassed. They would just nod their head and like, yeah, it was extremely challenging. They just that language just blurted it right out. There was no trying to hide it. So I think what they did say is what they were able to pick is very good quality, but the quantity is anywhere from 50 to 80% less than normal.
Really?
So yeah.
That's a
So what we'll see, yeah, I mean, I can't imagine they can really have the wherewithal to raise prices. The prices always creep up a little bit, but I just don't think you'll see much wine from 23,
Do you, when you think
especially
about
at the higher.
years like this, how far back would you have to go to think about another year that, kind of 50 to 80% is quite a bit to lose? I mean, has this been something that's happened, the last 10 years, or is this just a
Yeah,
really bad year?
yeah. No, I mean, I think down in Brunello and in most of Tuscany, even in Umbria and Piemonte, 2014 was very challenging. Not this bad. Most of the producers I remember talking to at the Benvenuto Brunello for the 2014s when they came out told me they were down about 40 to 45%, and that was not so much challenging with the frost and the they had a lot of rain, which was mostly the issue, but it wasn't every day, in 1 month. I mean, most of the rain they got was confined to May, and then it stopped,
Yeah.
except for the thunderstorms in the summertime. So June was pretty dry. Um, in 2014, it kind of just rained almost consistently through the length of the growing season. But before that, um, 2002 is probably the worst that I can remember, and before that, 92.
Okay.
Um, in terms of lots of rain and reduced quality and quantity.
Okay. So stock up on 2021s, 22s for sure.
20, yeah. Well, that's the good part is there are a lot of good vintages coming down the pike. I mean, next month, 2019 Brunellos can be released. I don't know how fast they'll make it over here. They usually don't show up in mass until April, May, but